Welcome to the first episode of Couch to Summit's Summit Inspire series. We are in Aviemore, Scotland. It's quite wild outside at the moment, quite windy, but we got a very special guest with us today. We've got Scottish alpinist, mountain guide, and Piolet winner for the stunning ascent of the Mazeno ridge on Nanga Parbat, Sandy Allan. How are you, Sandy?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Hi.
Yeah, great to see you. Actually, Sandy took me out for a day of winter climbing yesterday. We went and did one of the gullies and did a route called the Central Gully. It's absolutely windy, by the way, yesterday. We actually got a taste for the famous winds here in the Cairngorms. Yeah. I've heard of that before. First time I actually experienced it. Some quick trivia, by the way. I think the Cairngorms actually holds the record for the strongest wind gust ever recorded in the UK, on top of the Cairngorm at 175 miles per hour.
Yeah, I think that's right, actually.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's not a place to be in when it's windy, but we had a great time yesterday. I wasn't sure if I need to ask him this, but I will still do it. What's your report card on my climbing yesterday?
Yeah, it was good. In fact, I was thinking about that this morning because sometimes, us guides, we do kind of take mental notes in case you come back and you want to do something harder. Yeah. But you never fell off at all. You never had any of the climbing, you never found it really very difficult, even although conditions weren't very good yesterday. We've got thawing conditions. So the snow was, the ice wasn't really frozen very hard, but it was at the top, but not at the bottom. And there was even water coming out of the ice at the bottom. So you climbed really well. Oh. It's really good. And you took all the equipment out very well, and you seconded very well. You belayed me really well. So yeah, very happy.
Oh, I think that's good to hear.
I think you're a competent climber.
Thanks, Sandy.
That's for sure.
I would have quickly moved us on if he had said something else. He said something really nice. That's good. Right. Okay. So, what are your earliest memories of being in the mountains? Tell us a bit about your early years. Like, how did your connection with the mountains start?
Yeah, well, my father was in whiskey distilling,
right?
And my father in my family, my father was in whiskey distilling, and my mother was from farming stock. And I was brought up in the distilling glens of the Highlands, like at Dalwhinnie, which is a famous whiskey. And my father was a manager at the distillery. So even at a very young age, we were just walking about even if you just went out the back door at Dalwhinnie, the back of our house at Dalwhinnie, it's really remote and quite wild. So we were quite feral children. We were brought up just, we'd never really started hill walking. We just walked in the hills all the time. We just thought that's what people did. So that was really my earliest memory, is going with I've got two older brothers and I have a twin brother. So my twin brother and I suppose because we were the same age and we were twins, we didn't really have, when we were together, we didn't really ask our older brothers, is this a sensible thing to do or not? We just went and did things. Sometimes they'd have to, even as little kids, maybe 4 or 5 years old, we get stuck in snowdrifts and our brothers would have to come and dig us out and everything. So, it was good fun. So that was just, kind of just a natural living wild in the Highlands, really. Just like a lot of the Highland kids are like that. We didn't formally start hill walking. I remember when I applied to be a mountain guide, one of the questions was, when did you start hill walking? And I thought, that's a really strange question because I've just always done it. You never really formally started.
Yeah.
But I've always been in the hills.
Right. It's just part of your life from a very young age, isn't it? It just comes naturally.
Yeah. Like my parents weren't Monroe I suppose I was born in 1955, so it's quite a while ago. And people weren't really, people bagged the Monroes, the Monroes in Scotland, all the hills over 3,000 feet. So people used to, it'd be the occasional people who did walk up the hills and stuff, but it wasn't kind of a recognised pastime as it is now, for fitness and health and well-being, etc. So, we just went walking and we'd happen to go up all these hills as well. We didn't really know there were Monroes at the time.
Great. Was there a particular person or an event that sparked your love for the outdoors? Do you have any outdoor heroes that you look up to?
Oh yeah, well, the main ones were a lot of Scottish climbers, but especially my generation. There was a chap, Dougal Haston, from Edinburgh, and Doug Scott. Well, Dougal was just from outside Edinburgh, and the chap Doug Scott, and they climbed the South. it became really, really famous in the olden days when Chris Bonington was leading an expedition to the southwest face of Mount Everest. And I remember trying to follow with that expedition. I was very, very interested in it, and especially Dougal Haston, the Scottish climber, and Doug Scott always appealed to me because he had long hair and hippie glasses, you know, all that sort of stuff. I really liked them, and of course they had a bivouac high on the summit, you know, just on the south summit, and they survived, and they didn't have oxygen and stuff, so everybody was really worried that they were going to die. So. And they, of course, they lived. So that was really a success story. But that really got me keen on climbing. Dougal Haston, and also there was a big TV program at the time. They did the first live filming on the Old Man of Hoy, which is a pillar up off Orkney, which I've climbed a lot now and I guide it quite often. And that was really, you know, everybody, you know, it was first time they did a live filming program, TV program on climbing. And of course, a lot of it's quite boring, just watching people doing things. But Hamish McInnes, another famous Scottish climber from Glencoe, who's also died now, who's the chap who invented the pterodactyl, the first ice axe with a pick. He was in Glencoe. He was another hero of mine because he had tried to climb a new route in Pomori a long, long time ago. And, you know, they ran out of money. They didn't climb it. But, you know, it was, you know, some of the old Scottish mountaineers, they were amazing. And, of course, going right back to Murray, you know, and, you know, there's just a huge history of Himalayan climbing in Scotland. You know, a lot of the adventurous Himalayan climbers came from Scotland or had a good background in Scottish mountaineering.
Okay. You mentioned something very interesting yesterday. You told me that you train in the Himalayas to climb in Scotland.
Well, you just see the weather today, and this is like yesterday was a good day, and then like when we climbed the Mazeno Ridge in Nanga Parbat, like yesterday was actually quite a good day. You know, like we're used to the weather, you know, so you can put up with it. So it's good training. It learns you not to put remember when we were walking down, there was a chap, he overtook us a bit, and then he dropped his gloves. I think he went to the toilet or something, and the gloves shot away and he had to run across. So Scotland teaches you to look after all your equipment and how to keep your extremities warm, and, you know, it teaches you how to look after yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a really good, important lesson.
Yeah, it really makes you tough in it, like going out here in the conditions that you have here. It really teaches you the ethos of mountaineering. Makes you really feel it.
Yeah, I think so. And the discipline to do things well. Like if you're going to put on your clothes, put them on properly. Don't take a shortcut and leave a number. You know, if your cramping straps come loose or something, you've got to fix it very quickly with your gloves on as well in the cold conditions. So that's really good training for the Himalayas as well.
Right. So coming to the Mazeno Ridge, how did the idea to climb the Mazeno Ridge come about? Was it something that you always wanted to do, or was it just something that the opportunity came and you took it on spontaneously?
Yeah. Well, years ago when I was a kid, you know, when I was really young, there was this famous climber, Hermann Buhl, and he did the first ascent, an Austrian climber, but climbing with a big group of Germans, because Nanga Parbat was regarded as a German mountain. Yeah. And he wrote a book about climbing Nanga Parbat, and he soloed it in the end. I don't know if you know the story, but it's a really very, very important one in the history of mountaineering. And he was also one of my heroes. I'd read a lot when I was a child. I'd read lots of books, and I really liked Hermann Buhl was one of my heroes. But the reason we got to know Nanga Parbat was I climbed a lot with Doug Scott, who's passed away now with a brain tumour. But Doug and I climbed a lot together, and he actually had the idea first of trying to climb the Mazeno Ridge. And we all went there, well, maybe 25 years ago. I actually forget the date. It'll be in my book, which I'm going to give you a copy of later. But it's in my book. But so he invited us to climb that, and we all went. There was quite a big team of us, and Rick Allen, Wojtek Kurtyka from Poland, Doug was the leader of the expedition, Andrew Locke from Australia, and we were all friends, and we climbed with each other. Well, none of us had really climbed with Wojtek Kurtyka much, but we tried then, and we never got very far. We got to the first summit. Well, we climbed one of the second summit had never been climbed. There's lots of summits on the way on the Nanga Parbat. But we realised we were really not ready for it, and Doug's plan was alpine style. Alpine style is a really good way to climb, and that's what we all prefer. But it was just such a huge undertaking that we all we got to this place called there's a big drop, and I called it the point of no return. Rick and I christened it the point of no return, because when we got to it and you looked down, you just thought, if we go down there, and something goes wrong, you're never going to get back. So it's a very serious point in the ridge. And at that time, we got almost to there. And then we saw it and just thought, oh my goodness, that looks so scary. And Doug became ill. He had diarrhea and stuff and got dehydrated. And he left the expedition. And then I climbed a lot with Doug Scott, so I just really missed him. So then I left the expedition. And then everybody else just slowly petered away. So that was the first attempt. That's what made us interested in it. But we realised it was really, really difficult, and it was a huge undertaking. Mm-hmm. And I printed off some photos, and I had them on my wall in my so-called office, in my home office. And it's just always sat there, this photo of this point of no return and the summit away in the distance. And I just used to look at it all the time. And all of a sudden, it just became a bit of a fascination. How are we going to climb this mountain? Mm-hmm. So that's how it happened.
So you had it. In front of your eyes all the time.
Yeah.
Like you wanted to really go and get it done.
Well, not really. It was just an interesting problem that existed. Like lots of problems in the world. There's lots of problems, and people look at them and go, "How can we fix that?" or whatever. And then what happened was the two American climbers, Steve Swenson and Doug Chabot, all of a sudden we heard that they had climbed the ridge itself, the lower bit.
Right.
And that was really interesting, because they're very, very good climbers. And I'm really interested in, I think most climbers were interested in what goes on all around the world. Mm-hmm. And they were Steve Swenson's, a big climber, and Doug Chabot was as well. And Doug Chabot also works in avalanche work, and I was involved in avalanche forecasting and everything for a long time. So, quite a few points of mutual interest. And all of a sudden, we heard that they had traversed the first part of the ridge to the Mazeno Gap. And then they came down, they were totally exhausted, and they came down, and they said it was a huge undertaking. And as soon as I heard that, my ears went like an interested dog. My ears popped up, and I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And then I said I had a client, and Rick and I decided to I wanted to guide the Aviemore face. I had a client who wanted to climb the Aviemore face. So we went there, and I said, Rick, why don't you come? So we got to know the Aviemore side of the mountain. And even when Rick and I were there, my client became ill, so he had to go home. And then Rick and I thought, gosh, should we try the Mazeno now? But we realised that we weren't actually ready or in the right place to start the climb. So we climbed the Aviemore face by ourselves and came down, and we got lots of photos and things, and just could see the Mazeno Ridge a lot of the time, on the Aviemore face. And I realised, I think it is possible, but how are we going to do it, So it took a long time to come up with a plan.
Right, okay. What were your biggest physical and mental challenges to do something like the Mazeno?
Well, if you're a climber, you don't think you're dying, so that's not part of it. You never actually think you're going to die climbing. You always think, it's a big undertaking, but we're good climbers, we should be able to do it. So dying isn't really, you're aware that there's danger and there's risk, but if you've got a positive attitude and you do look at all the negativities of being, you've got to be have a negative thought, and you kind of work out, if this goes wrong, what happens? Like you put mental risk assessments in place, and then just like something about the Mazeno Ridge, it's very high. A lot of the time you're climbing above 7,500 meters for a long, long time. So you're aware that you have to acclimatise. So, you just come up with a plan and you try it, and you're not worried about. There's no ego involved really. It's just, you want to go climbing. It's a really big feature in the world. It'd be nice to go and climb it. But you're not thinking, I'm going to be I certainly wasn't thinking we're going to be the first people in the world to climb it. We really didn't think we would climb it. We thought it's possible, but a lot of the climbs that I've tried to do with Doug Scott and with my friend Rick, we really never thought there would be a positive outcome. You know, we never thought we'd actually make the summit. If we tried our best and got down alive in mountaineering, for us, that's success. It's kind of more like an art form, really. It's tracing a nice line in the mountain, and if we can do it, that's super. You know? And I suppose that's why we did it on 8,000 meter peaks as well, rather than, you know, the 7,000, like climbing up to about 7,000 meters. It's not really very once you're acclimatized, it's not really very different from alpine climbing. But once you get onto the 8,000 meter zone, it's very, very different. You know, it's just much more serious, lack of oxygen, high altitude problems. You know, that's the problem that you have there. So, you know, it's a bigger challenge, and it's something that really fortunately, I discovered my body was quite good at it. Eventually, it take a long, long time to acclimatize. But it's, you know, it's just, you know, I'm happen to be good at it. So that's where my fascination has always been, on the 8,000 meter peaks.
Right. It's interesting to hear you say that, because it's almost like the summit's secondary, right? It's the journey and the love of actually doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same with probably anybody in any walk of life. Like, there was an interesting program on the BBC Radio 4 the other day about the people who were doing the first heart transplants, and you know, some of the stuff they went through was just unbelievable. And then there's that film on telly just now on Netflix, Joy, it's called, about artificial insemination. Not artificial, what do you call it? In vitro. Fertilization. And of course, everybody thought, God, these guys are crazy doing that. And, you know, are they upsetting God, and are they upsetting everything? You know, the apple cart of what's right, what's wrong. And, you know, but now there's millions and millions of people having in vitro, whatever you call it. What's that called?
It's IVF, right?
IVF, IVF, that's right. And it's amazing, you know, but I mean, it's super. So, you know, you've always got people who challenge things a little bit. Like, look at the Wright brothers. They tried to, you know, take aeroplanes and jump off a cliff with wings tied on, and now and we all thought they were crazy. And even when you see the videos, the films now of them doing it, you go, oh my goodness, these guys are just nutcases. But all of a sudden, we're all flying everywhere and wrecking the planet that way instead. You know, but it's a fantastic thing that we can fly back and forth, and it's just safe as houses.
So when the rest of the party who were attempting the Mazeno with you decided to descend, and then you and Rick decided to stay and attempt the finish, there must have been something in a voice that told you to keep going, and that you got it, almost telling you that you got this, stay back, let's get this done. Was that your experience? What was that voice telling you?
Yeah, that was really interesting. Like, we had climbed a lot of the ridge, and we'd even had one summit attempt, and then we had failed, and we came back to our high camp. And then we had run out of food as well. That's an important point to make. Kathy and the 3 Sherpas were really, really tired. We were all really exhausted. And in fact, Rick and I were the last people to come back down to the camp. And Kathy had turned back early with one of the Sherpas, and then there was the other 2 Lakpas were with us, but a little bit ahead. And everybody was exhausted, and the Sherpas were saying to us, we're definitely, and these Sherpas, you know, they weren't there. I think maybe it's important to say these Sherpas weren't there like in the traditional sense of Sherpas fixing rope and doing all the work for us. You know, they were really good climbers, and we were just all part of an alpine style team. But they did do a lot of work, and they were really amazing people. You know, they're really good guys. And they were absolutely exhausted, and they were saying, we've got to go home, we've got to go home. They were exhausted. And that night when we came back from our summit attempt, I walked into base camp, well, not base camp, our high camp, into the camp, and you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. It was terrible. You know, it was like, you know, a worst company boardroom meeting. You know, you could just walk in and you knew things aren't good here. You know, they were all tired, and everybody was cooking, but too tired really to cook, but just doing it because you have to melt water and everything. Nobody was really speaking. They said, we're going down. One of the Sherpas said to me, we're just going to go down in the morning. I said, oh, let's just go to sleep on it and we'll talk about it in the morning. So we went to our different tents. I was sharing a tent with Kathy, had some cups of tea and things, and then went to sleep. In the morning, we woke up. I had a fantastic sleep, so that helps a lot if you sleep really well at altitude. Woke up, and the rest were shaking our tents. Come on, Sandy, get up, we've got to go down. And I said, oh, hold on, don't take down our tent yet. And I shouted over to Rick, "Hey Rick, do you want to discuss our options?" And the Sherpas and Kathy were getting ready, they were packing everything. They wanted to go and they wanted to go quickly. And I said, let's just slow down. We shouldn't be trying to make a decision when we're all emotional. Let's just take our time and really think about it. And Rick and I, at that stage, we didn't think we were going to go on to the summit. We just didn't know. But what I didn't want to happen was to be pushed into making a decision just based on emotions only. Because I knew we had energy left. And Rick and I have done we've not had a lot of success at climbing 8,000 metre peaks, but we've tried new routes in a lot of places, very, very technical things. So we've had a lot of challenges, and of course it's not about the summit, it's about, as we were talking before. So we weren't really worried about the summit. We wanted it, but you really want it and you're passionate about it. But we wanted to persevere, I suppose. But really, at that stage, it was just, let's stay calm, discuss this, and see where we can go from here. So Rick, they wanted to go, so we said, okay, let's split up the food. We had split up the food. It was hard. It was we were left with half a packet of McVitie's digestive biscuits and a handful of sort of sweets and lots of gas. We had plenty of gas. So Rick and I weren't worried about the food, although they were very concerned about the food. But they wanted to go. They were exhausted, so they wanted to go down. So we agreed they should go down. But it was a big discussion at the time. But once they went, it was good. And Rick and I said, well, we don't know what we're going to do, and let's make a cup of tea. So we made a cup of tea. We went to get the food. We realised, hey, there's none left. What are we going to do? And both of us just looked at each other and we just knew we're going to go to the summit, aren't we? So we did.
Right, okay. Well,
but we thought at that stage, we could go to the summit in maybe a day and a half. And then we knew from climbing Aviemore, the normal route, a few years before, that in theory it should all be fixed to be all the tourist climbers going up that way. Right. So we should be able just to clip fix the ropes and abseil down and get down really quickly. And then we could, even if we were out of food, we'd meet all them. They'd be really nice to us, as climbers are. They'd give us a tin of beans or, some sort of food just to keep us going on the way down, or, a bar of chocolate or whatever. So we weren't worried about food because we really thought there'd be people on the normal route, and once we find the top of the fixed ropes, you can just nip down anyway.
Right, okay.
So that was an important factor in us going to the summit.
Good.
Because we didn't realise, that they weren't there anymore.
Okay. Well, you obviously had a very experienced group of climbers, and one group of them, including the Sherpas, decided to go down while we decided to stay back. After that group had left, did you have any thinking about, are we still making the right choice here? Because when you see people go down, you start thinking differently about it sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's right. And that's something I meant to say, and that was your first question. That was the question, really. It was a very quiet and very special time. And I remember sitting against this rock, watching Kathy and the three Sherpas going down. And they were going down a route that nobody really knew.
Right.
It's kind of a version of the Shell route. Okay. There's a route coming up there called the Shell route. It's never actually been climbed all the way to the summit, but that's the way that it goes. And Doug Scott used it as a descent route, and Shabo and Swenson used it as a descent route. But anybody who's gone down it have been totally exhausted, even at the top. So by the time they get down, it was just, let's get off this mountain, and this is the way that you seem to go. So they all went down that way. And I remember sitting in this rock, and actually it was really quite inspirational. Like, I'm a Christian and I believe in God, and so does Rick. So I know that's very old-fashioned to say that sort of stuff, but we do. And you just get this feeling that everything's okay.
Yeah, that's good. So looking back now, where would you personally rate the Mazeno ridge climb in your list of personal achievements? Because yes, it did win the Piolet for you that year, but you do find that for a lot of climbers, their award-winning climbs are not necessarily the climbs that they think are their best climbs. So is that the same case for you? Do you rate the Mazeno as your best climb, or do you have other climbs that you actually feel were harder, or you like them more?
Yeah, that's a really hard question actually to answer. But I think in my case, I think the Mazeno is a really big deal, and
Yeah.
it's a really big climb. And there was some climbing on it that was very it's quite technical, sort of grade 3, grade 4, but at higher, above 6, above 7,500 meters, so quite technical. So that was challenging enough. But yeah, you're right. It's an important climb. We never climbed it to get in the Piolet d'Or.
Yeah.
It was never even, I didn't even know what the Piolet d'Or was at that stage. I really didn't.
Yeah.
And now it's got a lot of, people are much more aware that there's this award that climbers get. But it's given by other climbers, so it's the French who do it. So, there's always, I don't really agree in awards. Like, I've never had an award in my life. The only award I ever got was perfect attendance at school when I was in primary school. I've never had any other awards, and I really don't like them. Yeah. And I do think awards, even at the time of the Piolet d'Or, I wasn't sure if I was going to take it or not. You have a big, the minute people tell you you're quite good at something, or you get an award, that makes you think, oh, I must be quite good at this. And then climbing, if you start thinking you're good, then you usually have an accident. That's how life is. There's plenty of people who have written books about avalanches, and then they get caught in avalanches. There's lots of examples of that. So, you're very aware not to become an expert, as it were. We never really are experts. So I think, but yeah, Nanga Parbat and the Mazeno is a really big climb in my life. The North Face, the Eiger, those little climbs in the Cairngorms, I just love them. I could do them every single day. There's one, we'd have done it today if the weather was good. I would have taken you up Spiral Gully, and it's one of my favourite climbs. It's just super, and it's not difficult, but it's just a super place.
You just enjoy it. Yeah. How did the Piolet d'Or change you personally? I mean, I assume once you did get the award, there's a bit more focus on you. Did you kind of feel like, I would rather not have the award and just get on with enjoying what I do instead of the award, or how did it change you personally?
Well, it's very interesting. Remember, we were quite old when we got the Piolet d'Or.
Yeah.
We've been climbing all our lives.
Yeah.
We've been trying things that are kind of unclimbable.
Yeah.
But we got always high, we always got back down. So, and you're an IFMGA mountain guide, so that basically you're doing things as a good mountaineer would do. If you stay alive, that's success in mountaineering. And I know there's a lot of famous mountaineers who are dead, and a lot of that is bad luck, but a lot of it is, because basically they make a bad decision, or, bad luck and everything. It's a very complicated issue, that. And it's something that climbers don't discuss enough, maybe. Like, people die and we make them superheroes. I'm not sure that's correct, because usually, they made some sort of mistake. Like my friend Rick on K2, he died on K2 in a big avalanche a day after there was huge snowstorms. Most people know, wait for 24 hours at least, so, they do get caught up in enthusiasm and everything. So, and then, make mistakes or caught up in your ego or whatever it is that happens, that does happen. And that's the nice thing about the Piolet d'Or, because it awards you for climbing a mountain in a really good style, but coming home back again. You do get it posthumously. David Lama and John Roskelley and what's the other chap's name? I actually presented the award. They died and they got a Piolet d'Or, even although they were dead, which was an exception to the rule. But they were amazing climbers. Sorry, I've forgotten the question.
Sorry, I think you answered it. I was just asking how the Piolet d'Or changed you personally.
It's not really. I don't think it's changed me at all. It's made me more aware that. I think it's really nice that your peers acknowledge us. Yeah. But I actually don't like the idea of, I like having it, and it sits on my desk. Yeah. I keep it kind of out of, it's not out of sight, but I don't really like if I go on a video call, it's not sitting here beside me. I kind of keep it out of the way a bit. I don't really like it. I don't think climbers should get awards, really. And when I got it first, I made the mistake of saying, we're not like mountaineers aren't like Olympians. We don't train all our life to win a gold medal. But at the same time, I'm very aware, and I think that's a big mistake that I said that, because all these runners and athletes, they train like crazy, but they don't train just because they want to win a medal. They train because they love doing it. Yeah. And that's just an incentive at the end. It's like, your mum giving you an ice cream when you're 5 because you behaved well. It's not that sort of thing, really. I'm not really into awards. I'm really pleased that they've given me, that Rick and I got the Piolet d'Or. I kind of thought the whole team should have got it at the time.
Yeah.
They singled us out, but we wouldn't have climbed Nanga Parbat without Kathy and the three Lakpas. So they were an important part of it, but they were never really mentioned in the award. That's why in my book I write about them a lot, because we were really, they're a really important part of the team.
Absolutely.
And I think also there's some modern climbers now, they're almost climbing to get a Piolet d'Or. Are they climbing the line because they love it, or are they climbing to get an award? And that's confusing. That confuses me, and I don't like it.
Right.
I'm not saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. I'm not sure how to deal with that in my own thoughts.